Hello there everybody, how is it going and how have you been? I am EuclideanSqd, and we're back here in Duel Links to check out a more traditional unlock event, Consumed by Light, Sartorius Emerges. In case you can't tell by the name, this is the unlock event for the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX character Sartorius, so if you're a little confused why I'm in the normal duel world with Banded Keith, it's twofold reason honestly. First off, all of my characters in GX are fully leveled up, and I would like the experience from these duels to contribute towards helping other characters level up. And two, Bandit Keith actually gets restart by level up. I think he's one of the few duels that actually does get restart by level up. And the restart skill is actually pretty useful for the farming deck that we are going to be using. So let's go ahead and take a look at that right now. There is another event going on right now called, it's like Mission Circuit or whatever. Basically, a quick summary of that because it's going to be popping up through the at the end of the duel. It's basically a duelathon, except you win points by accomplishing certain feats during a duel instead of just winning or losing. So it would be like, you know, win the duel, achieve a no damage victory, stuff like that, and that gets you points that build up on a meter and get you rewards, but otherwise it's basically a duelathon, so don't really worry about that. Anyway though, this is the farming deck we are going to be using. Kind of typical Euclidean farming deck that I have used against at least a dozen unlock events by now. It's a really good cheap strategy. What can I say, it works. But doing a little bit of a twist on it this time around. I was checking out the event on the Duel Links meta website, and I saw a comment by a user who goes by Gasper1319. As usual, there will be a link down in the description, but he had actually found a card that had totally slipped my mind that works just as well as Neo-Parshoth or Winged Dragon of Ra, and that is this one. Euclidean Nimbus Man. So the main strategy with the decks, or with this deck that I've used before, is that the Euclideans sit on the field and just basically stall things out, and previously you would use a card called Golden Ladybug to gain life points, and at the end of the duel, if you had it, you would summon Winged Dragon of Ra, dump that power on the Gravekeeper's Vassal attack directly. A cheaper version that I had found was using a card called Neo-Parshoth, the Sky Paladin, who would accomplish pretty much the same thing, but the whole thing was that Ra and Neo-Parshoth got more attack points the more life points you had. A bit of an oversimplification, but that's how it worked. Nimbus Man does not work that way. You don't need Golden Ladybugs if you're going to use Euclidean Nimbus Man, and even better, Nimbus Man is a normal rare. Unlike Neo-Parshoth, who is a super rare, and Ra, which is an ultra rare that I think might still be event exclusive. Nimbus Man is stupidly easy to get. You just buy packs in the box that he comes in, you're bound to find one sooner or later. And the way Nimbus Man works is that he doesn't care about your life points. Instead, much like other Euclideans, this card cannot be destroyed by battle. If it is in face-up defense position, it is also destroyed. However, you can tribute any number of water monsters for the tribute summon of this card, and when it is tribute summoned, you place a fog counter on it for every water monster that was tributed. This is the part where Nimbus Man fits the same role that Neo-Parshoth and Winged Dragon do. This card gains 500 attack for each fog counter on the field. This combos extraordinarily well with EuclideanSqd, which, during each of your standby phases, places a fog counter on every face-up monster on the field, both yours and Sartorius's. So, effectively, during each of your turns, Nimbus Man could be gaining anywhere from 1,000 to like 2,000, possibly even 2,500 attack points every single turn of yours that starts. He is almost guaranteed to be over 10,000 if you summon him anywhere near the middle of the duel. It's actually phenomenal how well this strategy works. I don't know why I didn't think of it sooner. I guess he just kind of slipped my mind way back when I first started using the Euclidean farming deck, and I just got so set on using Parshoth as a substitute for Ra that I didn't think any other ones existed, but here we are, Nimbus Man. He works amazingly. As for the rest of the deck, you will need any combination of 6 Euclideans. I'm using Acid Cloud, Altus, and Cerostratus. They all have the cannot be destroyed by battle effect. You won't really need to use any of their effects. They're mostly just there to both block Sartorius from attacking you directly and to act as another reservoir for fog counters to help boost up Nimbus Man's strength. There are a couple of planet pathfinders that you can use to search out the Sanctuary in the Sky, which helps with the whole sealing off Sartorius thing. It is a field spell that says that battle damage to the controller of a fairy-type monster involving that fairy-type monster becomes 0. So in other words, because all these Cloudians are fairies, even if Sartorius were to try and attack them, he can't do battle damage so long as this field spell is in play. Now, there is a better card in the game to help you search for Sanctuary in the Sky. It is a monster called Sartorius, the Herald of Heaven, or just Sartorius, Herald of Heaven, something like that. And its effect says that you can discard it from your hand, add 1 Sanctuary in the Sky from your deck to your hand. It just works better than Planet Pathfinder because Planet Pathfinder kind of eats up your normal summon for the turn because you have to play it, then tribute it to search for the field spell. I'm not using Sartorius because he is event exclusive. The last time you could get him was whenever the hell they last held the Elegant Tea event. Or, I can't even remember if that's the name of the Stronger Tea that was in the game, but that was the only way you could get it. It was months and months and months ago. He's still completely unavailable through any other means, so I don't use him for that reason, just because he is a really old event-exclusive card. And then, last turn gimmick is, as usual, Secret Pass to the Treasures, Gravekeeper's Vassal, Union Attack. You play Gravekeeper's Vassal on your final turn. Ideally, Nimbus Man will be well over 10,000 attack points on his own by that point, so you don't even need 2 Union Attacks. It's just good to have a backup, just in case Nimbus Man shows up late in the game. And then you just use Secret Pass on Vassal, play the Union attacks targeting Vassal. Vassal goes over 10,000, attacks directly, you do more than 10,000 damage, you do only effect damage because of Vassal's ability, and you profit. It's actually wondrously easy how this deck works. There's literally only one card that Sartorius has that could possibly screw this up for you. As the spell card, I will get into that when we get into the duel. But that is what this counter trap card is meant to do. Ultimate Providence is meant to protect you from that one possible card that Sartorius can use to stop you. Ultimate Providence says that when a spell trap card or monster effect is activated, you can discard the same type of card to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. So ideally, you will have like a spare Sanctuary in the Sky, or possibly a spare EuclideanSqd, maybe even throw away one of your Union attacks if things are really desperate. But you use Ultimate Providence to protect you from this one spell card, and after that, you're pretty much set. Once you get a Sanctuary in the Sky and 1 Cloudian out in the field, Sartorius is screwed. He has no spell trap destruction, none of his Arcana Force monsters can do anything to your monsters. It's ridiculously easy. And now that I've said that, I'm probably going to get an absolutely garbage starting hand even after restart, and he is going to whoop my butt in 2 turns. So, let's go ahead and look at his new reward card, shall we? So, I'll admit, I'm not super thrilled with most of the new cards that were added for him. They just seem a little too convoluted, but regardless, let's go ahead and take a look. So, I've already gotten all copies of the normals and the rares. I haven't gotten either the super rare or the ultra rare, but to start with, the first normal is the Spiritual Lord, a continuous trap card that you can activate only if you have a level 5 or 6 Arcana Force monster in your graveyard. You can then send 1 level 7 or higher Arcana Force monster from your hand to the graveyard, then add a copy of the Sky Lord from your deck to your hand. And Sky Lord, I believe, is the rare spell, but before we get to that, there's the other normal, which is the Material Lord. Another continuous trap that you can activate only if you have a level 4 or lower Arcana Force monster in your graveyard. You can send 1 level 5 or 6 Arcana Force monster from your hand to the graveyard, then add a Spiritual Lord from your deck to your hand. So Material Lord is basically used to set up and search for Spiritual Lord, and Spiritual Lord is meant to set up and search for the Sky Lord, which is a continuous spell this time. You can activate only if you have a level 7 or higher Arcana Force monster in your graveyard. Big surprise there. However, you can send this face-up card, 1 the Material Lord and 1 the Spiritual Lord from your field to the graveyard, then special summon an Arcana Force EX the Light Ruler from your hand, deck, or graveyard, ignoring its summoning conditions. So, Arcana Force EX the Light Ruler is Sartorius' signature monster. It's I think it's like a 4,000 attack point monster? Or is it 3,000? It's got a lot of attack points, and unlike most of the Arcana Force monsters, who their whole gimmick is that you have to flip a coin when you play them, heads is generally a good effect, tails is generally a bad effect. EX, the Light Ruler, both heads and tails are good effects. So it's basically just an incredibly super powerful monster. The only catch being that the normal way you play it is by sending, I believe, 3 Arcane Force monsters from your field to the graveyard, and there are no other means that are allowed to summon it, other than Skylord, which has to ignore Light Ruler's own effect. Anyway, that little rambling rant aside, the Super and the Ultra are a lot cooler because they don't really rely on plugging up your back row and hoping your opponent doesn't get any spell trap destruction or any slow, convoluted stuff like that. The Super Rare is a spell card called Ledger of Legerdemain, probably mispronouncing that, but you banish 3 cards from the top of your deck face down. Then, during your 3rd standby phase after this card's activation, you add all 3 cards to your hand. However, you can only activate 1 copy of this card per turn. It's kind of interesting. I don't know if it's going to show up too often in multiplayer, but it looks like it could be a really good sort of just draw power spell for farming decks. I mean, it doesn't really... Well, no, because it does technically mean that in a weird roundabout way, it's almost like you're technically drawing 2 cards for the next 3 turns. It's just you only get half of them after those 3 turns have elapsed. Obviously, because of how it works. But point is, it actually does speed up the deck, and for a moment I thought it actually didn't. Anyway, I do apologize. I'm a little bit tired right now. Anyway, finally, the new Ultra Rare is Arcana Force 22... no, not 22. 12, the Hangman. Level 6 Light Fairy with 2200 attack and 2200 defense. When this card is summoned, you toss a coin and gain the appropriate effect. Heads, once per turn during your end phase, you target a face-up monster you control, destroy that target, and if you do, you take damage equal to its attack on the field. Or tails, once per turn during your end phase, you target a face-up monster your opponent controls, destroy that target, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its attack on the field. So the Hangman is, I think, one of only 2 Arcana Force monsters where you actually want the tails effect instead of the heads effect. But regardless, it's still a pretty interesting monster. 2200, 2200 is not bad for a level 6. Ideally, you're probably not going to use it outside of an Arcana Force deck just because there is that 50% chance of it getting heads and then possibly forcing you to destroy it and then dealing 2200 damage to yourself. But in an Arcana Force deck where you can force activate its tails effect with some of the trap cards or the spell cards that come with the archetype, this thing can actually be pretty scary. Not gonna lie. But yeah, that's all of his new cards. So, little rambly tangent aside, let's go ahead and have a practice duel against him. Or an example duel, I guess. Again, my apologies, I'm just a little bit of scatterbrain. Lots of stuff has been happening the past few days, and just schedule's been a bit hectic and just kind of frazzled a little. Alright, so let's see. We are not going to use restart. We have the perfect starting hand. And here we go. Gonna use Sanctuary in the Sky, Altus, and Ultimate Providence. I am more than willing to throw away Union Attack because I just drew Nimbus Man. I'm not going to use Ultimate Providence to counter him. Okay, just get that for free. Yeah, it's not going to get Nimbus Man any fog counters, but I'm going to go ahead and tribute his... I'm going to go ahead and just tribute off Sartorius' Chariot for Nimbus Man. I just don't want his Chariot sitting around on my side of the field. It doesn't matter because all the Arcana Force monsters are also fairy types, so even if Chariot does go to my side of the field, Sartorius can't do battle damage to me by attacking it. I'd just rather have a monster that can't be attacked and destroyed once I start creating fog counters with my Cloud Squalls. And right now, just gotta keep an eye out for his spell card, which is called, I believe it's called Sword of Soul 10? Well, it's X, but it's technically the Roman numeral for 10. And the reason that spell card can ruin your fun is that it also, much like the Arcana Force monsters, requires him to flip a coin, which, for Sartorius, all these cards are well, I'll explain that animation in a moment. Let me get back to Sword of Soul. So, for Sword of Soul, you flip a coin. If it is heads, you destroy all monsters your opponent controls. If it is tails, you destroy all monsters you control. And it's specifically the heads effect you want to counter, because that's the only means that Sartorius has of getting rid of your Cloud Imps once they are on the field. He can't change your battle positions, he can't get rid of your Sanctuary in the Sky. Sword of Soul is the one card in his entire deck that can screw this up. And, since I now have Ultimate Providence and a spare Sanctuary in my hand, I have a perfect counter to that, so I am guaranteed to win this. Now, to go ahead and explain this weird card spinning animation that's been going on, this was actually something that references back to the anime. So instead of flipping a coin, as the effects explain, in the anime the cards themselves would appear over the monster or over the field, I guess, or whatever, and they would spin around. If they landed right side up, it was considered the heads effect, and if it was landed upside down, it was considered the tails effect. So it's just a little sort of flavoring animation for the whole thing. It only applies to the Arcana Force cards if they are used by Sartorius. So that's all it is. It's just cosmetic. It's literally no different than just a coin flip. The game is doing the exact same thing in the code. It just looks a little fancier. So I'm going to go ahead and keep tossing out these Spirit Cloudians because I need to hold on to Sanctuary. I am actually getting kind of annoyed that I don't have... Here we go. So now the one thing that's worrying me is him possibly summoning the Light Ruler. Because if he does, that gets... Oh! Or he could just do it right now. I was going to say I was afraid of him summoning this after I've gotten some fog counters onto all of his stuff, because that would just remove all of that and drop Nimbus Man's attack power. But since he played it right after I played Squall, this thing's just going to accumulate a ton of fog counters anyway. Doesn't matter. So I guess technically that means that Light Ruler could also screw up this deck, because if he plays it when you only have one card left and he wipes away like 30 total fog counters from his field, that's, well, maybe not 30 total fog counters, but let's say 15 fog counters from his side of the field. That's a steep drop in Nimbus Man's attack power. So basically, the sooner he plays that, the better off you are, and the sooner you get a Clouded Squall, the better off you are. But right now, Nimbus Man is going to be gaining 1,500 attack points every turn. I have 6 turns left, so that's 3,000 times 3. That's another 9,000 attack points from the gain. He's definitely going to be over 10,000 by that point. We are fine. Alright. Actually, let me go ahead and double check Light Ruler. Oh no, it's just by sending 3 monsters you control to the graveyard. It's not 3 Arcana Force monsters. Okay, so it could be any 3 monsters you have. Got it. Alright. Go ahead and toss away Planet Pathfinder. We don't need that. Keep the Ultimate Providence set and ready to go in case he tries to play this. Okay. It's Suit of Sword, not Sword of Soul like I was saying. Regardless, I am countering that with Ultimate Providence. Not even giving you a chance to screw this up for me. And there we go. Okay, that's annoying. I've never seen him do that before. But... okay. Well, since I have space, I'm going to go ahead and play another Clouded Squall. Just to speed up the rate at for Nimbus Man's attack growth even more. Actually, let me just double check. Okay, yeah, it's still recording. I had a little moment of panic there that the recording had accidentally stopped or something. Alright, yeah, Nimbus Man's going to go way over 10,000 by the time that deck runs out of cards. Yeah, you... In fact, I'd actually advise that you don't use your weaker Cloudian's effects, just because that consumes fog counters and will thus reduce Nimbus Man's attack power. I mean, I'm kind of okay here. Well, I mean, technically, Temperance is giving Nimbus Man 2,500 points. So, Not super comfortable with using Altus's effect, but basically don't worry about using Acid Cloud, Sostratus, or Altus's effect. You won't ever have to. Again, they're just there to act as a wall and as another source of fog counters for Nimbus Man. And yeah, just like that, game's over, I win. Unless he suddenly pulls out some random new card, which he doesn't. Okay. And look at that, Nimbus Man is at 17,000 attack points. So, Secret Pass, onto Vassal, Union Attack, Vassal, Union Attack, Vassal, go to Battle Phase, and Vassal cranks all the way up to 37,300 attack points. As hilarious as this is, I think Nimbus Man is making Vassal stronger than like Neo Parshoth or Wing Dragon of Ra ever would. I mean, it doesn't matter. There's no bonus past doing over 10,000 damage. It's still just hilarious that this normal is creating more power than an ultra rare and a super rare would. Anyway, did I get anything interesting? Nope. Just super rares I already got. Okay. Well, yeah, that's how you farm with this deck. Pretty straightforward. This is the mission circuit thing that I mentioned. Don't worry about it. Just dual-a-thon points, like I mentioned. Just a slightly different system for winning those points. But anyway, as this is an unlock event, there are cumulative rewards, so let's go ahead and take a look at those right now. And I believe I've already got Sartorius unlocked, but I believe it is 400,000 that you unlock. That he unlocks at? Yes, it's at 400,000 that he unlocks, and at 4.2 million you get a new skill for him. Specifically, 3 Lord Pillars. If your deck contains both the Spiritual Lord and the Sky Lord, you begin the duel with the Material Lord set in your spell and trap zone. All copies of the Spiritual Lord and the Sky Lord will be placed at the bottom of your deck. Now, 2 things. First off, that basically means that things are already set up for you to start comboing towards just special summoning Light Ruler right away, or perhaps faster than you would otherwise. But this last sentence right here, all copies of the Spiritual Lord and Sky Lord will be placed at the bottom of your deck. Konami has announced that they are already having to rewrite the effect of this skill because people have found out how to break it. Basically, right now, if you have 3 copies of Spiritual Lord and 3 copies of Sky Lord, the game will put all 6 of those cards at the bottom of your deck. Meaning, you effectively only have 14 cards to draw through, which is making some decks stupidly, ridiculously overpowered. So Konami is changing this skill to not do that. It'll still work otherwise. You still will start with the Material Lord set, at least I believe you will. I'll go ahead and check that at the end of the video. It's just, it won't push all copies of the other 2 towards the bottom of your deck anymore. So you can't kind of cheat the system and get a 14 card deck instead of a 20 card deck. Anyway, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, so that's the skill. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the cumulative rewards. As usual, gems and item crystals and stuff. You get a copy of the Sky Lord at 200,000 points. You get Sartorius at 400,000, but if you unlocked him last time around, it's an ultra rare jewel. At 1.1 million, you get a copy of the Ledger card. I'm not going to try and say the whole name because I know I'm going to mangle the pronunciation of that last word. Some more super rares. This is probably the card sleeves. It's ultra rare for me because I already have the card sleeves. At 2.9, you'll get a copy of the Hangman. 4.2, you get the skill. 4.6, you get, I'm guessing, the game mat. 5 million, you get maybe the icon, if I had to guess. And then, there you go. There's probably, I don't know where it would be, but there would probably be another prize down here that, I don't know exactly what they're called. but it would basically, if you were to get the last prize on this list, it would instead be something that acts kind of like a title or something, but basically when you're in the PvP arena, it would announce to other players that you 100% completed the Consumed by Light event. I did that last time the event came around, so it's not showing up for me, but if you see a weird little sort of blue and white icon at the bottom of your reward list, that's what that is. It's just a little flare telling other players that you finished the event. And let's go ahead and take a look at the card trader. So you can buy another copy of the Light Ruler. I somehow have 13. I did not realize I had that many from the last time the event came around. This is actually a removed super rare. This was something you could only get last time he came around, so sorry if you're a new player, but you only get one copy of the Moon. It is a level 7 Light Fairy, 2800 attack and defense. When it is summoned, you toss a coin. During your standby phase, you can special summon a Moon token, which is a level 1 Light Fairy with no attack and defense. If it's tails, during each of your end phases, the turn player selects a monster they control and gives it to their opponent. You can buy a copy of the Ledger. You can buy a copy of Splendid Venus, which is an interesting card. I don't think this was part of the last event, so I guess this is just one of those other sort of random themed cards that kind of appear in the card trader EX inventories, which is why you always want to check them. Level 8 Light Fairy, 2800 attack, 2400 defense. All non-fairy type monsters lose 500 attack and defense, and the activation and effects of spell trap cards you control cannot be negated. Alright, that's kind of cool. Gold Dragon Summoner, level 4 Light Spellcaster, 1000 attack and defense. You contribute one monster, then target a monster on the field and return it to the hand. You can only use this effect of Golden Dragon Summoner once per turn. Alright. Then Skylord, Spirit of Harp. Actually, it's a 2000 defense, level 4 vanilla. That's not bad. Arcana Force the Lovers, Consular Belt, Light Ray, and then some really bad normals. So, okay, typical fare for a card trader. One or two random good super rares, some of the rare stuff from the event itself, and that's about it. So, yeah, that's pretty much everything for the Sartorius event itself. If that's all you were here for, I hope you enjoyed. Hope you have a great day. One thing that I'm going to end the video on actually is a notice that was put out tonight, I believe, that the Forbidden Limited List and skills are being rebalanced, kind of like I mentioned with the new Sartorius skill. So if you're not interested in this, you can go ahead and end the video now. You're not going to miss anything else important. But for those of you that are curious, on July 26th, these skill rebalancings are going to go into effect. Masked Tribute, Parasite Infestation, and 3 Lord Pillars are all going to be changed. So, Masked Tribute, originally, you would return a card from your hand to your deck, then randomly play a Grand Tiki Elder or Milk at the Four-Faced Beast in defense position from outside of your deck. The purpose of this was to make it easier to special summon Masked Beast Descardius. It specifically is a Lumis and Umbra skill, but players have been using it to just, special summon one of those and then immediately tribute with it, or synchro summon with it, or something like that. Konami is now nerfing that. After using the skill, you cannot normal summon or special summon any monsters other than Masked Beast Descardius until the end of your opponent's turn. So, if you want to synchro summon or if you want to tribute with it, you now have to protect it for a turn. But yeah, just making it a little less cheaty, because suddenly creating a level 4 monster just by returning a card to your deck is kind of overpowered for certain things. Parasite Infestation, I am 100% fine with them changing, and I'm pretty sure I know why. It's because of those stupid Parasite Lava Golem stall decks where the opponent just does nothing but stall and slow you and flip your stuff face down with Floodgate Trap Hole and just basically be a nuisance until you summon parasites with their effect and take take tons of effect damage, and then they summon lava. It's basically a really, really annoyingly slow stall deck. But long story short, Parasite Infestation will still put 1 or 2 Parasite cards into your opponent's deck after the starting hands are dealt. However, unlike before where the skill would activate regardless, Now this will only work if you have 4 or more insect-type monsters with different names in your deck. So you can no longer just stack your deck with all the typical stally monsters and stuff that would just slow your opponent down. You actually have to specifically use this with insects. And again, I'm fine with this because that deck was one of the most awful things to deal with. I hated that deck so damn much. That's actually probably part of why I stopped playing in PvP, is that deck. I just got tired of it. And then finally, 3 Lord Pillars, like I mentioned, they are removing the effect where it would push Spiritual Lord and Sky Lords all to the bottom of your deck. Doesn't do that anymore. It just puts a Material Lord set in your spell and trap zone. It is actually kind of nice because then you don't have to put copies of the Material Lord into your deck. You just have to include a copy of Spiritual Lord and Sky Lord at the very least. So, you know, it's still actually a nice skill because it means you don't have to carry one of the 3 cards around normally. But it's just, it was a little broken. So they're fixing that. Anyway, that's the skill rebalancing. Very minor changes to the Forbidden Limited list. Gem Knight Lady Lapis Lazuli is now being limited to 1. This is actually a fairly strong card. It's Fusion Summon from Gem Knight Lapis and any Gem Knight monster. And once per turn, you can send a Gem Knight monster from your main deck or extra deck to the graveyard, and if you do 500 damage to your opponent for each special summon monster on the field. Considering Lapis Lazuli is a special summon monster, the Gem Knights are pretty good at special summoning. Your opponent will have likely special summoned by that point. That can be a lot of damage very quickly, so Lapis Lazuli is being put on the limited list. I didn't think it was that bad, but I can kind of understand why. And then for limited 2, or I guess semi-limited technically, Diamond Core of Kawaki Miru is being put on the list. It makes sense if you come across any of the Vagabonds that use the Kawaki Miru deck that has Maximus in it. This thing is stupidly broken with that strategy. And additionally, Amazona Swordswoman is just showing up in way too many decks, and it's getting annoying and boring, so they're putting that on the limited 2 list as well to try and encourage players to not overuse it. And I can respect that, because it's not necessarily a bad card, but it is just kind of obnoxious seeing it pop up in so many different decks. And then, as a result of putting Diamond Core of Kawaki Miru onto the limited list, Iron Core of Kawaki Miru is being removed from all limited lists, and you can now have 3 copies of it again. And honestly, for as okay as I am with all these Forbidden Limited changes, I'm still a little upset that they aren't doing more about that 6 Samurai deck with like the level 1 Fuma tuner that's stupidly easy to summon, and then legendary 6 Samurai Shi-En and all that nonsense. Like, so many of my Vagabonds recently have had that deck, and it's just, I don't know why they aren't taking this opportunity to try and nerf it a little bit more. Like, they tried to previously by targeting one of the spells, but it just didn't do anything. So, I don't know. I'm happy with what they're doing, but I still think they could have been doing a little bit more. But that's just my own personal opinions, and like I mentioned, doesn't pertain to the rest of the event, to the Sartorius event at all. It was just something that I wanted to talk about because I had noticed it right before I started recording. So, anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all had a great time, and I hope you all have a great day. And I will see you all in the next one.